Atari Surfer says, with 3D printing becoming ubiquitous, do you see yourself making a tool or workshop improvement using a 3D printer? And when can we see it? You know, it's so funny that you ask this. I have not wheeled 3D printing into my process very much at all here. And that has several reasons. One is that doing stuff by hand is the meditation. That is like that's my comfort place. It's where I feel a measure of control over the things in front of me, which is a nice, pleasant fiction. But that's the spiritual practice that goes on here. However, Norm Chan just handed me this filament print, and it'll come up in a video later, but he handed me this filament print, and this is the draft mode, yes? This is like their speedy fast mode, and I can barely see or even feel the separations of the filament. And that this happened quickly, that has my interest. I also caught this video recently of a guy who built a $10,000 professional camera stand that you would have in a photo studio with like movable bearinged arms and risers. And he did it all using like 7.5 kilos of SLA and some aluminum rods. It's a beautiful build and a magnificent execution. And it too sort of reset my brain on what might be possible to do here for me using 3D printing. So my answer to your question is maybe soon you'll get to see something I make with 3D printing. I think I definitely want to bring this printer in and play with it for a while because there are things that I could do with it. The other reason is that sometimes these prints take 10, 15, 20, 30 hours. Some prints we do on the Form 3 can take days. And frankly, setting something up and hoping that you get the product out at the end, or it could have crapped the bed, I don't like those kind of odds. I would rather, I use this analogy. In any kind of traffic situation, I don't want to be on the freeway because I don't want to be left without any other options besides just sitting there. I want surface streets so that I could make a left and a right and checkerboard my way home if traffic got really, really bad. The same thing is, that's exactly how I feel about 3D printers. I don't want to spend 40 hours on a print that turns into spaghetti. That'll make me really, really cranky. I'll spend those 40 hours just making that part from scratch. There's no, like, I'm not anti-3D printing at all. I love the process. I'm really glad that it exists, and I have made many things from beautiful 3D prints from all sorts of different processes, from SLA to carbon to resin to sintered nylon and even titanium. So there's no Luddite thing going on here where I don't like these new technologies. It's just about when it can become an adjunct to my flow state. I think that's actually really specifically the thing. My main goal here is to, like I said, that practice of meditation, of being at the bench and being present here in the moment with the stuff that's in front of me, solving those problems. That's my flow state, man. And one of the reasons I organize so assiduously around here is specifically to lower the threshold of flow state to as infinitesimal as possible so that I don't have to walk too far to go get that Allen wrench or find that material or make that thing. Adam Tribiano says, do you weather clothes that are a character's daily clothes? Excellent question. And the answer is yes, you do. You totally weather clothes that are a character's everyday clothes. I had a costume designer explain to me that a lot of long clothes that have been owned by someone for a long time frequently have a very subtle amount of what he called shoulder burn on them, because this is usually the only exposed part of clothing that sits on a rack. And that putting that shoulder burn into a piece of clothing, it's not like you would look at it and think, oh, that's an old versus a new piece of clothing. You wouldn't really likely notice the difference unless someone took a brand new off-the-rack shirt and showed it to you on the character's body as opposed to a shirt that had been weathered. And the weathering of a piece of clothing like that, hold on, I'll grab you a tool here. There we go, and yes. So this is a primary, aside from adding color, which also is real. Like you would, for a regular everyday piece of clothing, you would add a bit of yellow around the collar. You would add that around the cuffs. You might put a stain somewhere, the things that happen in normal clothes. But also, you would take something like this, which is effectively like a hairbrush built by Satan. It's a lot of little tiny needles sticking out, and you would use this to actually pull apart the threads of the fabric. And that was an extreme one, but like, take a look at your everyday wear favorite shirt and you'll notice there are a lot of signs of regular wearing on it. And a good costume designer knows how to bring all of those elements of storytelling to a piece using a host of methods. There are weathering powders, there are acrylics, there's also, I mean, one of the first things a clothing designer does with a costume that's supposed to be everyday clothes is they wash it like 5 or 6 times. So just run it through 5 or 6 cycles in the washing machine to kind of push it through that oscillation of the heating and the cooling and the pressure and the wet and the dry. All of those things change the shape and the lay and the motion of a piece of clothing. It's a great question.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.